Let's talk about the top 5 Nat-4s for the heavy metal dungeon. And we're not going to include light and dark today, I don't think. I think we're just going to do regular element today so that perhaps it'll have more widespread reach, I guess, for people. If you have a light dark and you're unsure, there will be a link below to the tier list. We are making really good progress. We got the bulk of the 4 and 5 star tabs done, so you should be able to reference it for all the main content, basically up to the heavy metal dungeon, including Lost Tunnel and Guild Wars, and like it's coming along, so you should be able to reference it. And based on what we've sort of figured out, we're going to talk about the top 5 best Nat-4s for the heavy metal dungeon. Okay, so the first one on the list is going to be the Water Sky Police. If you were a Summoner's War player, you will recognize this unit as Galleon with a guild battle speed lead. We have the AoE attack up for the team with a 100% chance to inflict defense down to all enemies. You do still need accuracy for this. That just means it has a 100% chance to roll the accuracy. So this does not mean that you don't need accuracy. I want to be sure I'm clear about that for any newer players. You do still need to load the accuracy up, okay? For the A2, attack an enemy and inflict 2-turn mark, which increases the amount of damage that a unit takes. So if you put it on the boss, they'll take more damage, right? Afterwards, increases your action bar by 50% damage based on your defense. So going to help turn cycle a little bit faster back around to this AoE defense down, which is going to be really nice for the waves, and it's also going to be really nice for the bosses. It's going to be a little nice for everything, and boosting the damage of your team. And then on the A1, you have another defense down, and you have a chance to counterattack. So this unit's pretty much going to permanently keep up a defense down. As long as there's no immunity on the boss, as long as you have someone on your team that can get rid of that immunity, the water bouncing Joker is fantastic at it, for example. This unit will keep defense down up on the enemies and do a pretty good job of keeping an attack buff on your team, as well as putting a mark on the boss so that you can do more damage. Just a very solid unit. You get this unit, you probably want to get them on the team, okay? Pretty solid unit. Decent speed, decent accuracy, decent survivability, and they'll do a lot of work for you. Moving right along, next up we have the Water String Maid. Pretty cool unit, actually. Pretty cool little chick here. So we've got, again, a guild battle lead, which is, I guess, kind of the theme of the day. For the A3, attacks an enemy 3 times, with each attack shortening the buff duration by 1. So she's basically stripping buffs off the boss in heavy metal, right? Not in so many words, but that's what's happening. She's shortening the duration every time she hits. She's hitting 3 times, which means she's going to be able to get those buffs off of there. And then on top of that, she extends buff duration on all allies by 1 turn, and damage is based on her speed. So the faster you get her, which you're going to be wanting to get her fast anyway, she'll be doing more damage. On the A2, you have a full team cleanse, which is very important for this dungeon. The tower's going to be putting dots on you constantly, and if you've got dots on you when you get hit, it's going to be a bad time. So her getting rid of the dots is really nice. In the same motion, she will also grant you a pretty nice heal and buff everybody's attack. So again, another really good unit, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown. You get a little bit of turn cycling, a little bit of turn meter boosting, and a little bit of turn meter knockback. She might be able to cycle back around this to basically keep you from ever getting hit while having dots up. So very handy. And then on the A1, a 3-hitter with some of that turn meter knockback we were just talking about. So you see how many different roles she's filling on top of having elemental advantage. If you've got her and you're struggling to get through this dungeon, I think she's going to make your life drastically easier. She is very, very good. Now, I did do a free-to-play team recently, which I'll card to if you want to check that out. That's, very easy to do, and 3-star units except for the Fire Gunslinger, and it's like bare bones free to play. But if you've happened to pull her, she will undoubtedly make it easier for you to do. She's filling so many roles here. Again, stripping buffs and extending buffs on your team, cleansing, healing, and attack buffing, and then turn meter knockback on the A1. Everything she does is meaningful. Every turn she takes is very meaningful in this dungeon. So easy S tier, I think. Next up, Water Archon, and wouldn't you know it, guild battle lead. The passive, when attacking, steal 1 buff from the enemy and apply Incurable for 2 turns to enemies without buffs. For each buff possessed, attack power increases by 40%. Another example of someone who can get the buffs off. You'll notice a theme here that getting the buffs off of the boss in heavy metal is very, very important. So he's got a passive. There's no cooldown for his buff removal. He's just going to do it every time he hits, okay? Here we have attacks enemies 3 times randomly. Each attack has a chance to inflict defense down, and it will always have elemental advantage. This doesn't really matter in heavy metal because everything's fire and he's water, so he's got it anyway. But if you wanted to use him anywhere else, that's worth noting. I don't love that this is a random hitter, honestly. I would prefer it be an AoE or a 3-hitter single target, but he will still probably hit the boss fairly frequently. And if you've got anybody else helping him and he only hits the boss once, he'll still be able to help with the buff strip, okay? He'll hit the boss, I think, most of the time, right? And then here, another 3-hitter that is single target with a chance to inflict the slow, which is always handy. Anytime you can slow the dungeon bosses down, you want to take that opportunity. So, again, fairly straightforward, pretty simple, right? Random 3-hitter with a defense down, single target 3-hitter with a slow, and he's going to strip buffs every time he hits somebody. Very simple, but very effective. Very effective for that dungeon in particular, okay? We're going to jump out of the water section for a second and down into the fire section. This is the unit that you'll get when you beat Heavy Metal 8. There was a little bit of confusion about that in the free-to-play team since he's a 4-star, but if you haven't gotten there yet, and there's no real reason you would have scrolled down to look, but when you clear 8, the game gives you this unit for free, so he will be a free-to-play unit, and he's very, very good for this dungeon. So he gives you the speed lead, which is very handy. His cool thing is he's got this passive where every time he lands a critical hit, he increases the attack bar of all allies by 15%. Now, it won't affect another fire gunslinger, so you couldn't just load up on gunslingers and have them constantly circling each other's, or cycling each other's turn meter, but it will affect the rest of the team. So this is really nice, again, for helping you turn cycle, which we've talked about a couple of times here. And then here, we've got a mark. It won't glance, and it deals more damage to boss, right? So helping your team do more damage, helping your team turn cycle, and fairly straightforward as far as how to use him. And then here he hits twice, and again, every time he lands a critical hit, he's doing it. So it's nice for him to use the A1 because that's 30% of your turn meter, okay? That's a pretty substantial boost. So there's a few different ways to use him. The way that we use him in the video where we do the free-to-play team, he's the slowest member of the team. So basically that allows everybody on the team to come in, do what they do. He comes in behind them, lands his critical hits, and gets everybody that much closer to another turn, right? So he's just kind of coming in behind everybody every time to help them cycle their way to another turn faster, rather than being the fastest and doing it when you were probably everybody was going to go first anyway. So you'd be kind of wasting his first turn, right? If everybody's turn meter is only slightly behind his, he's not doing as much than if he comes in behind everybody who now has an empty or halfway full turn meter. So I think for the general, like, earlier game approach, it's a better idea to run him slower. And you could still run the speed lead. He doesn't have to be slow. I just think having him be the slowest on the team is pretty handy, if that makes sense. And then, of course, 100% crit rate is kind of mandatory on him. So get the crit rate on him, and then get enough stats to keep him alive, and he'll put in some work. And then the last unit that we're going to talk about in this video is the Water Puppet Artist. This unit has been getting kind of popular. I've been seeing this unit in Guild Wars lately. I've been seeing this unit in Arena. This is a pretty solid unit all around. So let's talk about it. Not fun to look at, but good. So speed lead in Arena, which is great. This is a passive. Inflict 1 turn defense down whenever you attack enemies. If the target is suffering any debuff, decreases the action bar by 15% additionally. Here we have an AoE 2-hitter. First attack has a chance to freeze. Second attack has a chance to sleep. It will not crit. And then the A1 has a chance to absorb turn meter and put someone to sleep. So already an AoE crowd control skill is strong. Not going to do much for you at the boss, but getting through the waves, this is going to be very handy. The passive, though, this now becomes an AoE defense down because of the passive, right? Whenever you attack enemies, there's no cooldown. Just whenever you attack enemies, you also put a defense down. And if they already have debuffs, then you also knock back turn meter. So even though you can't freeze or sleep the boss, you can put a defense down and you can knock back the turn meter. So very, very strong unit. Also, again, having element advantage is huge. You're going to take a lot less damage. And then here is a little bit more action bar absorbed. So there's a lot of turn denial built into this unit. Even though you can't use the crowd control on the boss, you're going to be helping with the defense down. Very handy, very effective. Again, at turn denial, keeping the towers at bay with the AoE, keeping the boss from getting turns with the A1, and allowing everybody else to do more damage. Just a very solid unit. I mean, could arguably be like a staple unit in the team, and going to be very good in lots of other places. I think going to be very good in Lost Tunnel. I've seen them be very effective in Guild Wars, especially you get a good Zeal set on so that they don't catch debuffs on the first turn. Solid unit. Pretty cool unit all around. So if you've got any of these and you're struggling in heavy metal, I think all of them would be helpful. I think perhaps the hardest one to make helpful could be this one. This might be more if you're trying to speed your runs up a little bit. But I think if you tank her up enough, because she's got pretty good base HP, right? I don't think she would be too hard to tank up enough to easily keep alive. And again, basically just keep a defense down on the boss, keep a mark on the boss. Everything she does is allowing your team to do more damage. So again, if you're needing to run a little bit of a safer team, maybe she won't work right away. But when you get to a point where it's time to start speeding it up, she's going to be fantastic for it. So that's it. That is what I think are the top 5 units in heavy metal at the current stage of the game anyway. 4 Nat-4s, I should say. I don't know if I said Nat-4 specifically, but top 5 Nat-4s for heavy metal in the game. So if there are any units, Nat-4s in particular, that you think I'm sleeping on that maybe didn't get mentioned in this video, that was all the S tiers according to the tier list. We happen to have 5 S tiers that were not light or dark. So if there's any units that you think I'm sleeping on, I would be very interested in hearing about it. If you've got any experience with them, or you've noticed that someone is doing really well in that dungeon and we didn't talk about him today, I'd be interested in hearing about it, because maybe we could update the tier list if there's someone that I don't know is really good in there. So again, tier list link below, my streams link below, my Discord's link below, the official Discord's link below. All the links that you could need for anything related to this game are below. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Hope it was interesting. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you later.